Hi and welcome to UTS Library's video on the introduction to EndNote for PC. My name's David, and in the next half hour or so, I'll take you through how to use EndNote in a sort of basic way, how to put references into EndNote and how to get them out of EndNote and put them into Word. We'll also show you how to download different referencing styles, how to make a group, and maybe one or two other things as well. Okay, so let's get cracking. First thing I'm going to do is share my screen with you. And then I'm going to take you to the internet. All right, so here's the library website. The first thing you'd want to do if you were beginning your EndNote journey is to download the software from our website. So the way you would do that is to go to lib.uts.edu.au and then go to the referencing page. Wait a little while. I guess while it's loading, I'll tell you what EndNote does. So EndNote is a referencing management software. Its job is to create a library for you of references. And these references can be keyed in by you manually, or they can be downloaded from academic places on the internet, places like the Library Catalogue or Google Scholar or other academic databases. This library of references can sort of assist you with your work. It can provide a place where all of your reading lives, at least the records of what you have been reading. And if the things that you've been reading have PDF attachments, you can attach them to your library and have them there for storage and consultation later on. So I guess EndNote is providing for you a sort of workflow, documentation of workflow and sort of keeping all of your work under one roof in terms of what you've been reading and in some cases the documents that you've been reading. And then most advantageous of all, it can take those references and style them according to various referencing conventions like APA or Harvard or AGLC or Vancouver and put them into your word processor for you. It works best with Microsoft Word, but it also does work with other word processors as well, like Google Documents or Pages. So now that we've done that, this page is loaded. Inside the referencing page, we have EndNote. So if I click here, you will see this page here. And to download EndNote, you follow the steps that are outlined in our downloading EndNote page. So once you acknowledge the terms and conditions, you can get the Windows version of Mac here, Windows version of EndNote here, and you can get the Mac version there too, but this is the Windows one. So you click on this little accordion, scroll down to this file link here. That will take you to the ITD software page where you can download EndNote, and then you can follow these steps to make it work on your computer. So we don't actually cover that within this class, but hopefully there's enough info there to get you started. And if you're having any trouble, at the end of this, we'll show you ways in which you can contact a librarian. Once you've downloaded EndNote, it will become an application on your computer. And when you first open it up, before you have done any work with EndNote, you will see this, not this library with references in it, you'll just see this gray page. So at this point, you'll want to make yourself a library. So to do that, you choose File and New and give it a name. So I'm going to call mine Dave Friday. I don't think I have a library called that yet. Okie dokie. So this is EndNote's interface here. It begins as a floating window on this backdrop, but you don't need to have more than one window open with EndNote at one time. So you can just maximize this window if you like. Okay. So let me take you through what we're looking at here. There's three main elements to the EndNote interface. You've got a leftmost area here that's blue, and this is like a filing system. So this will tell you how many references you have in your library. And there are other sort of categorizations beneath this. If you're working with a Word document, a little link will come up here telling you how many references are in that document. And if you've recently downloaded or created a reference, it will be shown here in recently added. You can also make groups which are sort of sub categories or folders of references within your library. And when you do that, they live here too, and we'll touch on that in a second. In the middle here, we have two elements. We've got a search functionality for EndNote. So if you have many, many references in your EndNote library, you can use this search panel to locate the one you might want. You can even use this search panel to search for words that would live in your PDFs if you've attached them. So that's very useful. However, it does take up a bit of real estate in the middle of the screen here. So if you didn't want to see this search interface, you can hide it with that button there. This area here is where your references go. You can have a great many references in EndNote. There's pretty much unlimited storage. You're only limited by the size of the space on your computer. And we would generally recommend that you only need one EndNote library, because that library can be very large and can hold a lot of content. And then if you wanted to design a sort of folder system or a bunch of groups, I guess EndNote would call it, within your one EndNote library, you can do that so that you can keep the work you might be doing for a particular subject or a particular assignment, or for some other reason, like a thematic research that you might be doing for a PhD. You can divide up your big library into categories that way. So generally we don't advise that you need multiple libraries, but it's up to you whether you do or don't. So we'll put some references in here in just a minute, and then we'll show you more about how that works. On the right-hand side here is a window that can perform a couple of different functions. If it's in reference mode, this would show you the inside of a reference. So it has a bunch of fields in it, each reference, things like the author, the title, the year of publication, and so on and so forth. So if you have a reference, all of that information is listed here, and you can edit it here if you want to. This preview button will show you what a reference would look like according to whatever your favorite style is. And there's also a PDF viewer here on the right. So if you attach a PDF to an article, you can expand the PDF and explore it and read it via this window. Okay, so I guess the next thing to do before we start getting references is to talk a little bit about referencing styles. In the PC version of EndNote, your referencing styles folder lives up here. And when you first download EndNote, there'll be a few default styles in this list. Annotated, I believe, is one, and numbered is another, and author date is another. However, if you're at UTS, the chances are you'll be using a referencing style that might not be in this list when you begin. So if you're using a common sort of referencing style like an IEEE or Vancouver, you'll be able to find styles like that, Chicago as well, just by clicking on select another style, and it brings up this big list of styles, a lot of which are journal referencing styles for publication. But you should be able to find a great many styles in there. However, if you're a UTS student that is using Harvard UTS, or a law student using AGLC, or a student who's using AAPA 7th, you'll find these styles living on our library website, and you can then add them to that list that we just saw in Select Another Style. So if I go back over to the web here and go back a little, so from the EndNote page, there is also a page called Download Referencing Styles. And within this page is information on how to add our APA 7th style and our Harvard UTS style to EndNote. So basically you click on these styles. I'll demonstrate it for you. You click on one of these styles like Harvard UTS. It downloads something to your internet, downloads folder. And when you click on it, EndNote opens up and you see this page. And this page is basically describing how the style works so that EndNote can use it. So all you really need to do at this stage is to save the style into EndNote so you can then add it as a favorite. And to do this, you go to File, Save As, and give it a name. So I'll call this one what EndNote wants to call it, Harvard UTS 2019 copy. I already have this style, which is why it's called copy. Okay, and then once you've done that, you can shut down this window using this grey X in the top right-hand corner. Brilliant. Okie dokie. So, pardon me, I just blow my nose. When you've added a style to your EndNote in the way that I've just shown you, you'll be able to then find it from this list by clicking on select another style. So I think I got Harvard UTS 2019. So if I go down a little bit, there's the one I just saved there. Okay, and so if you want to add it to your favorites, click on it once with your left mouse button so it goes blue, and then press the choose button. And hey presto, it's your favorite style. So what we should do now is add some references to EndNote so we can see how all this works in practice. If I go over to the internet and the library's website, I'm going to look something up on our catalogue. Our catalogue got refreshed over the summer of 2019-20, and one of the improvements that was made to it at that point is there is now an option within all the things you find in our catalogue to export the bibliographic information, the information about that thing, to EndNote. So I'll show you how it works. If I look up something, cosmology, and find a cosmology reading, I think the top thing here is a book. I'll choose that. So you can export a book reference from the catalogue to EndNote. And the way you do that is to click on this Export RIS button. When you do that, this little option opens and then you can press download. And then when you do that, if you click on this little downloadable file that goes down into Chrome in this case, all of a sudden, hey presto, the reference opens up in EndNote. And if I click on it, pardon me, I shouldn't have had that open. If I click on it, what will happen is if I go over here to this area, you'll see the preview of what it would look like in my reference list according to the Harvard UTS style. And if I was to change it, say to APA, it would change accordingly over here. You can actually array this window here a little bit in different ways. So if I drag that out a little bit, this probably looks a bit more like it would for you when you first opened it. You can actually see the reference, the preview, and the attachment button all sort of next to each other. So if I click the reference button, what we can see are the insides of the reference, the author, the year, the title, and so forth. This is all the stuff that comes down from the catalogue. I'll just repeat this process of getting something out of the catalogue for a journal article. It's exactly the same process, but just to show you that you can get both from here. Wolf Rayet stars, searching for Wolf Rayet stars. Okay, so this one's a journal article. I'm going to click on it and perform the same function, export RIS. So now we have two references. One is a journal article and one is a book. And you might be thinking, where did the book go? It hasn't disappeared. It's just being tucked away into a different folder than what we're looking at here. So this is showing us the reference we just imported. But if I go up to all references, we can see them both. And if I click on that one, you can see all the information that came down from the catalogue. There's a great deal of information there, including the abstract and the keywords from the catalogue, which is nice. Okay, so what I'll do now is I will show you how the PDF attachment function works. I will go and find the PDF for this article and then I will attach it to this reference. So hopefully I can get to it this way. I'll click on one of these database holdings. And then what I'm looking for, of course, when I get to this database is a PDF file I can save to my computer, which I'll have to do before I can attach it to EndNote. Okay, so here's the download PDF option. And there it goes, searching for Wolf. All right, so I think that will be in my downloads folder, so I'll try and find it and attach it. To attach a PDF to a reference, you click on the reference once, so it goes blue, and then you right click and you get all these options here, one of which is to attach a file. So let me choose that. Okie dokie, so I'm looking for somewhere. searching for Wolf-Rayet stars. So just like you're attaching a file to an email, you go and find it, double click, and there it is over there on the right. So let me just show you how you would sort of lock all of that work in place and save it. If you click out of this area searching for Wolf-Rayet stars in your library area, well, it's usually would say, do you want to save? I must have turned off the button that says, do you want to save, which is a bit silly of me. But generally, that's what you'll find in EndNote, is there's no save button. But when you click outside of the thing that you were doing, it will say, do you want to save? And within that window, there's a checkbox saying, don't ask me this question anymore. And I must have ticked it at some point, even though I didn't intend to. Still, we got what we wanted here. We have an attachment. So if I was to want to read it, I would have to blow it up. And to do that, I click on this little button here in Open PDF. And there it is. From within here, there are various annotation functions that you can use as well. You've got a little highlighter pen here. You've got sticky notes, underlining, and things of that nature, striking out text. So whatever changes you make to the whatever annotations you make to this PDF will be saved and will be there next time you open it up. If I close this down, let me just show you one more thing while I'm here. Wolf-Rayet stars are evolved descendants. So if I grab this word descendants, copy, and then I get out of this PDF with this button, close PDF. Oh, it's asking me if I want to save now. So I mustn't have turned off that button. Anyway, I do want to save. Okay, great. So once you have pressed that do you want to save thing, you'll see this little paperclip appear next to the article, which shows that you have an attachment. Now, the reason I copied the word descendant from this PDF is I wanted to show you a search function within EndNote. If I open up this search panel, what I can do is I can change the search, where the search is looking, to include any field in the reference itself. That would be anything in these sorts of boxes over here, or any words in the PDF, or even the words in the notes. So if I made a sticky note, it would be able to search the words that I'd used in the note. So what I'm hoping to do here, when I paste in the word descendants and press search in this any field plus PDF with notes, is that it will only show me the top reference and the Liebscher cosmology reference will disappear. Let's have a look. There you go. So that's just showing you a way in which you can, say you've got a bunch of PDFs and a bunch of references and you're trying to remember which PDF a certain quote might live in or a certain idea, you can track it down in EndNote using this search function. Okay, so I've got 2 references. I'm going to add 2 more. I'll get one from Google Scholar and then I'll key one in manually. So let me go from here to Google Scholar. Google Scholar is obviously a fantastic way to find academic information. I'll search for Wolf-Rayet star as well. But unfortunately, the quality of the data that goes into EndNote isn't quite as high as you might find in the catalogue, or even in other academic databases like the ProQuest database we just saw previously where I saved my PDF from. But, you know, if you do want to use it, I'll show you the best way to do so. So here is stellar evolution with a rotation X Wolf-Rayet star. If I click the Cite button beneath this reference, you have these export to referencing software options below. And the obvious thing to do would be to click EndNote. However, the quality of the data that downloads is actually better if you choose this RefMan option. I'm not sure why, but if you download the EndNote version of this reference, a lot of the time the name of the journal will go into where the author lives, and it makes for extra work that you need to do to clean up the reference to make it look nice. So to save you the trouble of that, click this RefMan option. Something will go into the downloads of your web browser, and then you click that, and then you have your reference from Google Scholar. Okay, and if I look at it in preview mode, you can see that there's no astronomy and astrophysics is where it should be. It's the title of the journal, and it's not up here where the authors live. So that's good. Okay, back to all references. I have 3 references. Now I will create one more manually, and this will be a website. So, websites and other regular things that you would find on Google don't have buttons to export to EndNote. So what you end up having to do is to key the information into EndNote yourself. This takes a couple of minutes, but it's still worth your while because EndNote will then be able to take that information and turn it into a reference for you, an in-text citation and a reference list entry very easily. And you can reuse it again and again once you've spent the minute or 2 it would take to key it in. So what I'm going to do here is take you to this page, Maslow's hierarchy of needs on the Simply Psychology website. And the reason I chose this is not because it's about stars or space, obviously. It's because the information needed to key a reference into EndNote is all sort of very easy to find. It's all at the top of this page. So the first thing I'll do, I guess, is copy the URL of this page because I'll need that to make a website reference for pretty much any style. However, what I'm going to do today is gather up the information I would need to make a website reference in the APA 7th style, because that's the one that's used most commonly at UTS at the moment. So to make a fresh reference by hand in EndNote, you have to go up to this button here that says New Reference. And when you click that, you get a big blank page that you can populate with your information, including the URL. But the first thing I want to do before I start doing that is change this reference type away from journal article, which is the default, down to web page, which is the reference type that will work for websites generally. It shouldn't even matter which referencing style you're using. Web page would be the way you'd enter in a website. So change this first, and then you can go down and start to fill in the information. So my URL goes in here, obviously. The name of the page that is equivalent to the title in EndNote. So the name of my page was Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Let me go back and find the other information I need to flesh this reference out. The author is Saul McLeod. So if I go back over here, I would enter Saul's name like this. If you had more than one author, you would enter the additional author on a second line. So if I wanted to put my own name in here, I could, or any other name. If I had an author that was a corporate author, like the Department of Finance, you could enter them in as well on a new line. But after entering in their name, you would also place a comma after the reference. And this will stop EndNote trying to grab this name and turning it into a human being's name. I'll show you what I mean by this. If I shut this reference, which is not complete yet, but that's okay, down, it will ask me if I want to save. And when I look at the preview, which is incomplete, we've got McLeod, Litting, and Finance TDO, which looks a bit odd, doesn't it? So if I double click on the reference, I can go back into editing it again. You can also do it from over on the right of screen there, but I'll keep going this way. Add a little comma at the end, close it down, and then all of a sudden the name looks correct, okay? So that's how to enter multiple authors and corporate authors in EndNote. Now that I've shown you that, for the integrity of this reference, I will remove all of that data again. Okay, what was the year of publication? March 2020. Okay. So in most referencing styles, you would need, of course, the year, but in APA 7th, if you've got a web page and it's got a date of last editing or date of creation, you can put that in as well. So I'm going to write 2020, March 20. All we need now, I believe, for a website reference in APA is the name of the website itself. You don't need an accessed date or year in the APA 7 style. So the only thing we need now is Simply Psychology, which is the name of the website. Okay, I'll go back here. You'll notice that I make this capitals, Simply Psychology, but Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I put in what's called sentence case, where only the first word of a sentence, the first word after a colon, and any proper nouns like people's names or the name of a country, stuff like that, would be capitalized. So that's just the rules of the APA 7th style. And it will behoove you to learn style that you're using a little bit before you use EndNote, because it will help you enter better data into EndNote and also be able to clean up data in EndNote that you download from the internet, which is never always perfect. So the first thing I'm going to do is close this reference and allow it to save. And I'll have a quick look at this reference. McLeod S 2020, March 20. Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs in italics. That's the title of the web page. Simply Psychology, the name of the website and the URL. And that is perfectly nice for APA 7. What I should also do now is just have a quick look at the other references to see if there's anything about them I'd like to change or improve. So this one has 2 authors, a year. You can also notice that even though I entered Saul McLeod as the author here, it shortened it down to S, and that's what EndNote will do according to your referencing style. But back to this reference. Maynard and Mader, 2003, Stellar Evolution with Rotation X, Wolf-Rayet A star populations. That's solar metallicity. That actually looks okay. There's a full stop after the X, but I'm going to assume it's supposed to be there. I don't actually know that much about astronomy to be able to say that's wrong, so I'll just let it go. Astronomy and astrophysics, you can see that's in title case as well, and that's what you do with a journal title, so that's good. Volume number in italics, issue number not in italics, but in round parentheses, and the page range. So that's actually very nice. If you knew the APA style in and out, you would probably be aware that a DOI number could also go at the end of this reference, but not every article has a DOI number, especially not articles that are, a little bit older like this one. So that reference is probably just fine. If I look at my cosmology book, we have Liebsche DE with a hyphen, which might look a bit odd, but if I double click on this reference, you'll see that the author has a double barrel first name, and that is the way that actually APA would look after that occurrence. You've got a hyphen between the initials, so that's fine. We've got a year, we've got a title, we have a publisher, we have a DOI number, but there's a couple of little things about this that could be made a bit better. The first is that we've got a first edition being mentioned here. In the right place, that's where you would mention an edition number in a book reference, but you only need to mention the second edition or the third or a number above that. If your book is a first edition, you don't actually need to enter anything into this part of the reference. So I'll go and remove that. And close it down, save it. The other thing is, and this is very niche, but generally the way APA 7th likes to express a DOI number is with the full prefix, which would be https doi.org and then the number. So I can add that to it in as well if I'd like to. So another way to make this change is to go into this reference area here, and you can change it from here too. So exactly the same thing, https //doi.org //. That's even better, okay? Probably wouldn't hurt you too much if you didn't know that, but if you do know it, you may as well go and fix it up. Then what else do we have? We've got this final reference here. Let me just have a look at the preview. Bibi, Crowther, Moffat, Shara, Zurek, and Drissen. Searching for Wolf-Rayet stars in M101. So about the only things in this that I noticed might be a little bit odd is they capitalized the word stars, which is probably not necessary, and we don't have the full prefix for the DOI. So I'll just go and fix that up real quick. And I'll decapitalize stars. But aside from that, those references were pretty high quality data, so I'm happy with that. Click somewhere else, it'll ask me to save, and we're done. Okay, so we've made good progress in our class today. There's only a couple of things left to do. The first is to make a group and assign some references to a group, and then we will start to put these references into Word. So to make a group, one way in which you can make one is to go over here where it says My Groups and use your right mouse button to open up this menu. Choose Create Group and give your group a name. I'm going to call mine Stars. Okay, and then maybe I'll call it Wolf-Rayet Stars to be quite specific. If I was doing lots of research about space, then this would be one element of that research. So once you've given it a name, you can assign the relevant references to it in a couple of different ways. I'll show you both. One is to grab the reference you like and to drag it into the group like that. And the other is to right-click on a reference or a bunch of references. So you can use Shift and select, or Control and select to highlight many references. And then you can add them to your group this way by right-clicking and choosing Add References to a group. Both of them achieve the same thing, which is to put them in there. And now you can see we've got all these different filing folders opened up. We've got imported references, search results. That was when I searched for the word in the PDF. Recently added, unfiled, and the two in the group. So unfiled are basically the ones that haven't been assigned to a group. Okay. So that's how groups work. And again, they're just there to help you find things later on, especially if you have many references and you've been using EndNote for many different projects. All right, so now it's time to load up Word. So when you download EndNote, you may not realize this is happening, but it will download into Word as it downloads the software, a toolbar. And the toolbar will be found in Word up here. At least it will for most versions of Word that are current now. So this is Word 2016. Within this toolbar, there are two major buttons that I'll show you today, and they may be almost the only buttons I need to show you today. The first and most important one is the one that puts a reference into EndNote for you, and that's this thing here, Insert Citation. You can press the top half of this or the bottom half of this. The bottom half gives you two different methods of inserting a citation. The top half just selects this one. Okay, so I'll press the top half because this is probably the one that people use most frequently. So what will happen when you open up this window is it gives you a little search pane here where you can try and locate a reference. And you can locate a reference with any words that appear in that reference page that comes along with it. So it could be the name of the author or the name of the title or any other word that appears in that reference. So if I write cosmology, it should bring up the one book that we have about that. And if I'd like to insert it into Word, you just press this insert button, and then wherever your cursor is in Word, that's where the in-text citation will go. And then at the bottom of your document, you'll get a reference list entry like that. Okay, so that is the bottom of the document. So that's where the reference list is going. Let me just repeat this one more time. So if you're writing a paper, say I wanted to insert Maslow's hierarchy of needs in here, writing a paper, blah, 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 blah. Now, the other way you can put a reference into EndNote is this way. You can go over and select one in EndNote like that with your mouse button, go back to Word, and then choose this Insert Selected option, which will place it in exactly the same way as this other way of putting it in. And then we get the in-text reference, McLeod, 2020, March 20. And this one's Liebscher, 2005. The comma in between the author and the year is to do with APA 7. And that's the style you can see in this window here. One of the powerful things about EndNote is that you can actually shift from one referencing style to another in sort of real time. So if I went up and chose Harvard UTS, these commas would go away, except for this one. But the comma goes away between the author and the year. And that is basically there because that's how I filled in the date area in my reference. If I went back to Vancouver, these in-text references would disappear completely and be replaced with numbers, and then you get a numbered reference list. So it's quite powerful in the way it can output references. Okay, so one more thing I might do is to show you how to add a page number for a quote, and also how to take the author out of the in-text brackets if you've already mentioned them in the text. So let me just grab the names of these people so I can do this for you. Maynard and Maida. Okay. So say I said this, Maynard and Maida say, and then I would quote something. So this would be some words perhaps from page 3 of this article. In APA, when you quote, you'd use double quotes, and then you would put in your citation and provide a page number. So let me do that. So if I go here and choose my search way of finding something and write mainnet, there's my reference. I'll pop it in. So it says mainnet and meta, and you actually use the word and if you're using the authors outside of the in-text citation. Say, quote, now I want to add a page number to this reference. Now, logic would dictate that you come in here and you write it in, page 3. However, EndNote doesn't want you to do that because of the formatting within the in-text reference that allows EndNote to change styles. So you don't want to be writing your additions to the in-text citation that way, but you can do it. You just need to do it in a slightly different way. And that is to go up to Edit and Manage Citations, click this, and whichever one you've clicked on, so it goes gray, that's the one it will want to edit. And then say my quote was from page 3, I would go in and write page 3, and it will do the rest. So you will add that information in there. Now, of course, I have mentioned mainnet and meta say something. But when you do that, usually you don't need to have the names of the authors repeated in the in-text citation. So you might want to take these out. And again, you can't go in and actually delete them from here. You have to go into Edit and Manage Citations and use this drop-down to do things like exclude the author. When you do that, the authors disappear, and then you have a nice looking reference. Meta and meta say blah, blah, blah. 2003, page 3, and you get your reference list as well. So that is basically how to make EndNote work. There are many, many other things to note about how EndNote works and can work and things it can do for you, but that is a very good start. If you'd like to learn more about EndNote and all the things it can do, especially if you're a researcher or an academic where you're publishing articles or working with a very large amount of references, you might want to look at our EndNote page, which has lots of additional information. So inside referencing and the EndNote page, we've looked at these two areas. This one will tell you how to manually key in lots of different types of references if you're using Harvard UTS. Eventually, we'll have one of these for APA 7th as well. But this page up here has lots of guidance on how to do more exotic things with EndNote. So as well as the obvious stuff like getting started and attaching PDFs and searching the catalog, you can find things about using EndNote for systematic reviews, merging different documents written in Word together that have all used EndNote, using the find full text function in EndNote. And you can also find lots of guides, PDF guides on how to use EndNote. Everything from, you know, a one-page sort of guide to 20-page guides to this giant 400-page guide written by the makers of EndNote. And other things too, like creating an annotated bibliography. So that's the self-help area of the library's website that will help you with EndNote. But if you'd like a human being to help you, why not use this Ask a Librarian function on the library's homepage? You can have a chat. Everybody on the chat service will have at least some familiarity with EndNote, and some will have a great deal of familiarity with EndNote. But if you've got a really probing question, you can write us an email about your EndNote question. If you're a research student or an academic, you can also arrange a consultation with us, and that could be a Zoom consultation if you're not able to come in and see us in person. And we won't be able to see you in person for a little while anyway, as of May 2020. There is also a referencing team on the library's website that you can get to via the referencing page. So if you've got a really tricky question to do with EndNote, why not contact one of the folks on this page? So that's it for today. I hope this video has been of some use to you, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again down the road. Bye.